Hello and thanks for joining us from our studios in Israel. I'm Aaron Porras, here with ILTV's Morning Briefing.
The latest round of fighting in the Syrian civil war has displaced over 160,000 Syrians from the country's southern region, more than triple since the last major wave. With more and more civilians getting caught in the crosshairs, scores of Syrians have flocked to the southern border with Israel, hoping to escape the bloodshed. Israel, for its part, has said that although it will not take in refugees, it has already transferred several dozen tons of humanitarian aid through Operation Good Neighbor. This covert IDF operation has already been underway since 2013, sending food, water, blankets, and infrastructure to Syrian villages devastated by the bloody civil war. Over the weekend, the military confirmed that nearly 28 tons of food, 300 tents, and over 30 tons of clothing had been delivered to help ease the suffering after the latest escalation of violence. Syrian President Assad's army has been trying to crush rebel forces throughout the region for over 8 years now, with the death toll approaching apocalyptic proportions. IDF forces have also just coordinated the transfer of 6 injured Syrians, including 4 recently orphaned children, to Israeli hospitals in the north. This medical aid has been a major part of Operation Good Neighbor, one that the IDF sees as a win-win for all sides. It not only gives crucial life-saving aid to those who need it most, but hopefully it also builds bridges with Syrians who leave the hospital with a newfound hope for peace with their Israeli neighbors. Unfortunately, though, the violence we are seeing is only expected to get worse and worse. For that very reason, Israel's Chief of Staff Gadi Eisenkot is currently in the United States for meetings with his American equivalent, Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Joseph Dunford. In yet another ugly scene from the Gaza border this weekend, 2 Palestinians were shot and killed by Israeli forces while participating in what the IDF called extremely violent riots. The 2 Gazans were 24 and 14 years old. But in a statement released this weekend, the IDF said that thousands of Palestinians were participating in extremely violent riots, hurling a grenade and rocks at troops and the border fence and burning tires. Therefore, the military used large amounts of riot dispersal means, and in accordance with the standard operating procedures, live fire when non-lethal methods didn't work. This is the 14th straight weekend since the March of Return protests began in March. At each protest, tire fires are lit and tens of thousands of Palestinians descend upon various points of the Gaza border, throwing rocks, explosives, incendiary kites, and more, while trying to destroy and infiltrate the fence. Roughly 130 Gazans have been killed on the border since the demonstrations began, and hundreds more injured. Israel holds that it has the right to maintain sovereignty and that Hamas is intentionally provoking violence and incident. In fact, many of those killed in the clashes have been notable and identified Hamas officers. The 19-year-old Israeli-American from Ashkelon, who admitted to making roughly 2,000 fake bomb threats in the early months of 2007, has just been convicted. With his name in Israel still under gag order, he was found guilty of multiple counts of extortion, disseminating hoaxes in order to spread panic, money laundering, and computer hacking over bomb and shooting threats. He targeted Jewish community centers, schools, malls, hospitals, police stations, airports, and more in North America, the UK, Australia, New Zealand, and elsewhere. He was also found guilty of assault for trying to grab a gun from a police officer searching his home, and then again for calling in over 100 more bomb threats to Israeli schools while already incarcerated in prison this past year. The teen's parents have maintained their son's innocence this whole time, however, claiming he suffers from a brain tumor and is on the autism spectrum, and that this is the underlying cause for his behavior. His lawyer also reported that he attempted suicide at least 5 times since he was imprisoned in March of 2017. The defense has argued often that the suspect was unfit to stand trial, but after multiple tests, the courts ruled that while he may even be autistic, he still understands right and wrong and therefore is fit for his sentence. Sentencing hasn't yet been set, but each count carries a weight of several years in jail. The defense has already said it plans to appeal. A 27-year-old Israeli man from AFULA was arrested Friday after beating 2 women in separate road rage incidents and then attempting to flee the country. Reportedly, after a minor auto accident earlier in the day, the suspect attacked a woman driver in broad daylight. Well, apparently that attack wasn't enough, as the same man is now suspected of attacking 32-year-old Tova Orlero as she was on her way to pick up her children from school. The suspect allegedly blocked the road with his car. Orlero said she gave a little honk to clear the road, but that she hadn't even finished honking and suddenly someone was kicking her car in the windows. "He began hitting my car with his hands and feet," she said. "He yelled, 'You won't honk at me again in your life.'" In a short video of the incident posted to social media, the suspect can then be seen attacking Orlero from the passenger side when Orlero tried to lock the doors. She said he was punching her repeatedly in the head and nose and that she thought she was going to die. Further, Orlero was on the phone with her husband during the time of the attack, and harrowing audio from the call released by Channel 10 shows the victim screaming, "He beat me." The currently unnamed Israeli assailant then fled when police were called and was later arrested at Ben Gurion Airport in an attempt to escape the country. Orlero will need surgery on her nose and face as she sustained multiple fractures during the attack. 4 Israeli women have just shattered the glass ceiling in perhaps the country's most masculine setting, the military. For the first time in IDF history, 4 female soldiers have just been promoted to the elite rank of tank commander. They are now being deployed to head tank patrol units along the Egyptian border, setting a new bar for women in the army. These 4 women represent the results of a successful new IDF pilot program to create an all-female tank unit. Though Israeli women are required to serve in the army just like Israeli men, many have often criticized the IDF for failing to give those female recruits the same opportunities as men. This is often seen especially true of high-ranking officer positions, where women statistically have far fewer, if any, roles. But these 4 female soldiers represent history in the making. They were each selected out of an initial course that saw 16 female IDF soldiers trained for tank service. Female soldiers have often been used to train tank operators, but this is the first time they'll be commanding the units themselves. The program was initially met with fierce criticism from the religious community, though. Former IDF Chief Rabbi Israel Weiss slammed the whole idea when it was announced, alleging that if you put a male and a female soldier in a tank together for a week, you'll get, quote, a little tank soldier in another 9 months, end quote. The IDF quickly rebutted this criticism, saying that tank units will not be mixed gender for now. But perhaps the best sentiment comes from one of the new commanders herself, 20-year-old Sergeant Charlotte Feld Davidovici, a new immigrant from the UK. She says that now she not only gets to defend her country, but also gets to bring women forward in combat and open up chances for future generations to do it, same as any man. You go, girl.
That's all for now. I'm Aaron Porras, and see you later with our main daily broadcast from Israel at 2 p.m. Eastern Time.